I know, wouldn't, said Mazarin. Well, then, how is it that your Eminence complained just now of want of information? You think, resumed Mazarin, that Rochefort, he was Cardinal Richelieu's creature. My lord, I warn you, however, his services will cost you something the cardinal was lavish to his underlings. Yes, yes, wouldn't, said Mazarin. Richelieu was a great man, a very great man, but he had that defect. Thanks, wouldn't, I shall benefit by your advice this very evening. Here they separated in bidding adieu to Gutant in the court of the Palais Royal. Mazarin approached an officer who was walking up and down within that enclosure. It was D'Artagnan, who was waiting for him. "Come hither," said Mazarin in his softest voice. "I have an order to give you." D'Artagnan bent low, and following the cardinal up the secret staircase, soon found himself. The cardinal seated himself before his bureau, and taking a sheet of paper wrote some lines upon it, whilst D'Artagnan stood imperturbable, without showing either impatience or curiosity. He was like a soldierly automaton, or rather, like a magnificent marionette. The cardinal folded and sealed his letter. "Monsieur d'Artagnan," he said, "you are to take this dispatch to the Bastille, and bring back here the person it concerns. You must take a carriage and an escort, and guard the prisoner with the greatest care." D'Artagnan took the letter, touched his hat with his hand, turned round upon his heel like a drill sergeant, and a moment afterward was heard, in his dry and monotonous tone, commanding 4 men and an escort, a carriage and a horse. 5 minutes afterward the wheels of the carriage and the horse's shoes were heard resounding on the pavement of the courtyard. Chapter III. Dead Animosities. D'Artagnan arrived at the Bastille just as it was striking 8:30. His visit was announced to the governor, who, on hearing that he came from the cardinal, went to meet him and received him at the top of the great flight of steps outside the door. The governor of the Bastille was Monsieur du Tremblay, the brother of the famous Capuchin, Joseph, that fearful favourite of Richelieu's, who went by the name of the Grey Cardinal. During the period that the Duc de Bassompierre passed in the Bastille, where he remained for 12 long years, when his companions, in their dreams of liberty, said to each other, "As for me, I shall go out of the prison at such a time," and another, "at such and such a time," the duke used to answer, "As for me, gentlemen, I shall leave only when Monsieur du Tremblay leaves," meaning that at the death of the Cardinal du Tremblay would certainly lose his place at the Bastille, and de Bassompierre regain his at court. His prediction was nearly fulfilled, but in a very different way from that which de Bassompierre supposed, for after the death of Richelieu everything went on, contrary to expectation, in the same way as before, and Bassompierre had little chance of leaving his prison. Monsieur du Tremblay received D'Artagnan with extreme politeness, and invited him to sit down with him to supper, of which he was himself about to partake. "I should be delighted to do so," was the reply, "but if I am not mistaken, the words 'in haste' are written on the envelope of the letter which I brought." "You are right," said du Tremblay. "Halloo, Major, tell them to order number to come downstairs." The unhappy wretch who entered the Bastille ceased, as he crossed the threshold, to be a man; he became a number. D'Artagnan shuddered at the noise of the keys. He remained on horseback, feeling no inclination to dismount, and sat looking at the bars, at the buttressed windows, and the immense walls he had hitherto only seen from the other side of the moat, but by which he had for 20 years been awestruck. A bell resounded. "I must leave you," said du Tremblay. "I am sent for to sign the release of a prisoner. I shall be happy to meet you again." "Sir, may the devil annihilate me if I return thy wish," murmured D'Artagnan, smiling as he pronounced the imprecation. "I declare I feel quite ill after only being 5 minutes in the courtyard. Go to, I would rather die on straw than hoard up 1,000 a year by being governor of the Bastille." He had scarcely finished this soliloquy before the prisoner arrived. On seeing him D'Artagnan could hardly suppress an exclamation of surprise. The prisoner got into the carriage without seeming to recognize the musketeer. "Gentlemen," thus D'Artagnan addressed the four musketeers, "I am ordered to exercise the greatest possible care in guarding the prisoner, and since there are no locks to the carriage, I shall sit beside him. Monsieur de Lilbon, lead my horse by the bridle, if you please." As he spoke he dismounted, gave the bridle of his horse to the musketeer, and placing himself by the side of the prisoner, said, in a voice perfectly composed, "To the Palais Royal, at full trot,